Well, hello and welcome to another Faith, Philosophy and Life. Me, Mr. Shelton. Bit of a classic today. Let's just watch this. Was that mildly disconcerting? I think it was for me. But anyway, I thought it set up quite well with what we're doing today. We're doing a topic about the environment and the way that we look after it. And today you're going to need your pen and paper with you. And you're going to need access to the description below. Here's our cheesy intro sequence. So our title today is Do Humans Need to Look After the Environment? Okay, you might say that we've kind of been going on about the same topic. Yeah, we have been, but they're looking at different things each time. So we've looked at pollution, we've looked at issues in the world. Today we're going to think about the role of humanity in creation and the idea of Christian stewardship and dominion. As always, do pause me as we go. So it's going to be good if you can describe what Christians understand by stewardship and dominion. Great if you can talk about what Christians believe their duties are towards the environment and why they hold these views. And even better if we can evaluate if it's just Christians that have a duty to look at stewardship or dominion, or whether others do as well, and would be justifying our theories, our decisions. We're going to look at our literary objective of combining information. We'll hopefully have a discussion exercise, albeit it won't be a discussion, but you may need to contact people that you know. It might not take you very long if you don't know many people, just like me. And we're going to think about what we believe and why we believe it, and what's the right and wrong thing to do as well. So during today's session, we're going to look at a clip which we've seen. We're going to look at some cats, look at some more clips, look at a worksheet, and do a reflection as well. So to start off with, a few lessons back, I asked you to come up with a list of things that you thought were problems in the world. And we've looked at quite a few of these now. So what I'd like you to do is to do a little mind map again. And yes, there is some repetition with this, but there's a slight difference that I'm going to be asking you to do. And I'd like you to, around your mind map, write down in one colour the issues that we find in the world today. And then in a different colour, I want you to try next to those, write potential solutions to those issues. So how can you try and resolve some of those things that we find? So one colour is the issues, and one colour is the potential solutions to those issues. And let's see if we can get a nice big colourful mind map of lots of issues and potential solutions. So pause me now and then come back to me. Okay, so I came across this clip. I'd like you to watch this. This will talk about some of the issues that we have in the world today.
Human activities, from pollution to overpopulation, are driving up the Earth's temperature and fundamentally changing the world around us. The main cause is a phenomenon known as the greenhouse effect. Gases in the atmosphere, such as water vapor, carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, let the sun's light in, but keep some of the heat from escaping, like the glass walls of a greenhouse. The more greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the more heat gets trapped, strengthening the greenhouse effect and increasing the Earth's temperature. Human activities, like the burning of fossil fuels, have increased the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere by more than a third since the Industrial Revolution. The rapid increase in greenhouse gases in the atmosphere has warmed the planet at an alarming rate. While Earth's climate has fluctuated in the past, atmospheric carbon dioxide hasn't reached today's levels in hundreds of thousands of years. Climate change has consequences for our oceans, our weather, our food sources, and our health. Ice sheets, such as Greenland and Antarctica, are melting. The extra water that was once held in glaciers causes sea levels to rise and spills out of the oceans, flooding coastal regions. Warmer temperatures also make weather more extreme. This means not only more intense major storms, floods, and heavy snowfall, but also longer and more frequent droughts. These changes in weather pose challenges. Growing crops becomes more difficult. The areas where plants and animals can live shift, and water supplies are diminished. In addition to creating new agricultural challenges, climate change can directly affect people's physical health. In urban areas, the warmer atmosphere creates an environment that traps and increases the amount of smog. This is because smog contains ozone particles, which increase rapidly at higher temperatures. Exposure to higher levels of smog can cause health problems such as asthma, heart disease, and lung cancer. While the rapid rate of climate change is caused by humans, humans are also the ones who can combat it. If we work to replace fossil fuels with renewable energy sources like solar and wind, which don't produce greenhouse gas emissions, we might still be able to prevent some of the worst effects of climate change.
So cats, right? Here are a picture of my two cats when they were kittens, Storm and Shadow. They are so cute. However, their predecessor cat wasn't so fortunate. He was lovely and we had him for lots of years, but towards the end of his life he got quite ill. We took him to the vets and he had an operation, and then everything was fine for another 12 months, and then one day he came downstairs and found that he wasn't able to walk properly. So we made the decision to take him to the vets and put him to sleep. I'm sure those of you that have had pets have already suffered a loss of that, and it is heartbreaking. But the thing is, we could do that because we had dominion over the cat. I could choose to take it to the vets to have it put to sleep because I've got power over it. I can't do that with my wife. Can't do that with my kids. I don't have the same level of dominion, and that's what dominion is. Dominion is to rule over something and to have authority over it. Stewardship is to look after it. So you might think a steward, a football match for example. That's very much the idea of someone who's there in a high-vis jacket looking after people, or at a sports race. They're stewards and they're there looking after people. So a steward is someone who looks after something, and that's the difference. So I have a dual responsibility. I'm a steward to my cats. I have to feed them, I have to look after them, but I'm also have dominion over them because I have to take responsibility for them. And the same as that with the planet, that humans believe that they have stewardship where they need to look after it, but they also have dominion where they can do what they want to it as well. It's a little bit of a confusing contradiction, I get that, but that's really what Christians believe. That's what the Bible says. It says that we are both stewards and have dominion. So I've got a question sheet here for you on an organisation called a Rocha. It's a Christian organisation that looks to look after the planet. You'll find in the description below, you'll find that worksheet, and you'll need to answer those questions from it. If you would rather just answer the questions in your book, then please do so. So let's just watch this about a Rocha now. Let's find out what their values are and why they believe what they do. So let's pause me now while you access the worksheet, and then I'll see you at the end of it.
It's a story we hear every day. Forests destroyed. Oceans overfished. And the atmosphere polluted. The story of paradise lost. We've changed the face of the earth. We've even changed the climate. It's time we changed. This is the story of a Rocha, a story of change, transformation, restoration, and hope. A Rocha is an international conservation organization that's working to show God's love for all creation. We are committed to environmental action through community-based conservation projects. From helping landowners in France turn their fields back to the original wetlands that once welcomed wildlife, and protecting the Alvor estuary in the south of Portugal with its rich biodiversity, to saving one of the last forests of the African coast, bringing income to desperately poor local villages, A Rocha has grown over the last 2 decades into a global family of projects working on 5 continents.
Yeah, I found this one.
Underlying all we do is our biblical faith in a living God who made the world, loves it, and entrusts it to the care of human society. It's why we're passionate about what we do. It's why what we are has always been somewhat unique in both the conservation and Christian worlds.
What we were trying to do in Portugal in 1983 at the very beginning was to give a practical expression to 2 convictions. The first was that it's a completely normal part of the Christian life to care for God's creation, even if that whole emphasis has rather gone missing from how we understand it to be. But also within the environmental movement, values, beliefs, why we do conservation work has not been talked about very much, although it's actually fundamental. And we wanted to bring that discussion to the foreground, but also to show in practice what Christian convictions would mean if you put them into a working context.
Like you for each person here. Amen.
We're now seeing tremendous possibilities for A Rocha developing worldwide, and one particular thing is exciting us, and that is that often where you find biodiversity hotspots, and those are relatively small areas on the planet, you sometimes find major concentrations of Christians as well. And we're looking at those overlap areas, those highly strategic places, where if the Christian church gains a vision for really understanding the need and the responsibility to care for creation, there could be enormous impact for good. In conservation terms, A Rocha's vision is quite wide really, because it's to see ecosystems restored, but it's also to see the well-being of those human communities that are dependent upon them. So you're talking about restoration ecology, but at the same time you're sometimes talking about developmental economics or sustainability. It's a very wide vision.
Environmental degradation and climate change hurt poor people the most. There's a misconception that investing in conservation is contrary to investing in people's livelihoods, that it's a luxury. But the idea that you need to get rich first, then worry about your environment, is not only untrue, it's dangerous. The fact is, the majority of the poorest people in the majority of the poorest countries continue to depend heavily on natural resources. However, experts have confirmed that 60% of the world's ecosystems are degraded or unsustainably used. This has direct impact on the livelihoods of the poor. They concluded, if we want to cut in half the number of people living in extreme poverty and meet the Millennium Development Goals to reduce poverty, hunger and disease by 2015, the world's natural resources need to be managed sustainably.
The poor are really more poor in the context of the degraded ecosystem. A Rocha is working to not leave people in such conditions, in terms of allowing people to be really happy to live in a very stable ecosystem. In that sense, A Rocha is, I think, working at the foundation of the poverty. The foundation is the spiritual one and the environmental one.
The rural poor depend directly on the natural resource base. This is where the pharmacy is, this is where the local supermarket is, this is, in fact, their fuel station, it is their power company, it is their water company. What would happen to you if these things were removed from your local neighborhood?
Sustainable development is very important for the population. And when A Rocha is working for biodiversity and when A Rocha is working against the deforestation, A Rocha is really fighting against poverty. We cannot separate the taking care of the earth and taking care of so many people who are so poor in the world.
All over the world, Christians are waking up to their urgent responsibility to care for God's beleaguered creation. The challenge is to all of us. Time is running out.
Okay, while you were hunting in that worksheet directory, I'm sure you came across another worksheet, which you'll see there for you. Now, that worksheet goes through Christian stewardship from a biblical perspective and some other organisations as well. There's some questions on the back of that. So again, pause me now while you get that done. That's going to take you 15 minutes or so, and come back to me when you are there. So, if the world was a gift from God, then we can do with it what we like. Okay, it's a simple question for you to answer. I'd like you to do 2 paragraphs, one which is agree or disagree, and a second paragraph as well. It can be the opposite viewpoint, it doesn't have to be. So I'm not laying this out as I would normally with my big evaluation questions. This is a short hit. If the world was a gift from God, we can do with it what we would like to. So, give it a quick go over, and then we'll see how we could potentially look at marking this question. So here we go. It's a 4 mark, and try and come up with a what went well, even better if. And so maybe it gives 1 brief reason, maybe it gives 2 brief reasons, or 1 developed reason, or maybe there's 2 developed reasons. Dead easy, that one. If you'd follow the structure I've given you, you should be able to get 4 without any bother whatsoever. So we said it'd be good if we could describe Christian understanding of stewardship and dominion, and hopefully we've got that knocked on the head. Great if we can talk about what Christians believe their duties are, and even better if we can evaluate if Christians have more of a duty on stewardship or dominion, and that's kind of where we're about to head. Before we do that, however, let's try and define these words in your book without using any of those terms. So you're going to define the word creation without using the words 7 days, made, make, or beginning. Really difficult to do. Give it a go. Come back to me when you're done. What about this one? A Rosha. What about this one? And finally, quite tough, some of them. So this is your final task. I would like you to create a word search that uses some of the key terms that we've already looked at in this unit, including different ways of pollution, charities, etc. Next lesson we're going to do like a little mini review of what we've thought about so far before going into a little bit more sciencey stuff. So I'm going to leave that there for you. Thanks for your time. Take care of yourself, stay safe, wash your hands, God bless you, and I'll be seeing you soon.